Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another session of the Innovation Forum. This afternoon, we are going to talk about scaling up and manufacturing of hydrogen technologies. Now, some of you may have noticed I'm actually not Mirella Tanasio. She was supposed to be the moderator for this session. Unfortunately, she's sick. She lost completely her voice. So I will step in. My name is Pietro Caloprisco. I'm a project officer at the Clean Hydrogen Joint Undertaking. But that's the end of the bad news, because on the bright side, we have an excellent panel of speakers that I will welcome now to take the stage to join us. Please feel free to take the seat and join us. And together we will be looking at the topic of manufacturing, which is actually quite key for the growth of the sector. Now, maybe before I start introducing the topic, I would like to ask to each one of the speakers to briefly introduce themselves, your name, your experience, and your title, so the rest of the audience can know what is coming up. So Africa, I will invite you first of all to introduce yourself.
Not sure if yes, it is working. So good afternoon. Good. It has been working that these guys has paid somebody of you to be here. So thank you for your attendance. I'm Africa Castro. I work for H2B2 Electrolysis Technology, so electrolyzer manufacturer based in Spain. And in my case, I have been working on hydrogen for more than 25 years.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Africa. Christian.
And good afternoon, everybody. It's a full room. That's quite impressive. My name is Christian Urgeghe, and I'm the Chief Technology Officer of Industrie Nora. We are a multinational company, but Italian, listed on the stock exchange market, Euronext. We are 101 year old, and our business has always been electrochemistry on the industrial scale. In my role, I overlook research and development, product industrialization, and industrial IP, let me say, intellectual property.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Christian. And then Richard.
Hello everyone. My name is Richard Schauperl. I am an R&D manager for fuel cell and hydrogen for AVL List GmbH in Austria. AVL is a big engineering company, also covering instrumentation and test systems for fuel cell and hydrogen. I am basically very active in the field of fuel cells and hydrogen for more than 20 years at AVL, and I'm also active as a founding member of Hydrogen Europe. Now I'm active as a DC lead of 3, responsible for all the transport pillar for Hydrogen Europe, and I'm also a founding member and a board member of the Hydrogen Association Viva BNG.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Richard. And now with this dramatic entrance, we can also introduce Mr. Philippe Rosier. Please, if we were just asking to all the speakers to briefly introduce themselves and their experience and time.
Hello, everyone. Sorry for my being late. So I'm Philippe Rosier. I'm CEO of Symbio, which is a company dedicated to fuel cell mobility based in Lyon in France. And we are owned today equally by Michelin, Forvia, and Stellantis.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So I'm glad to have the whole panel complete here. So as you can see, we have all the firepower that we need, all the expertise to discuss about the issue of manufacturing and scaling up. Now, just to frame a little bit the discussion, I think that for anybody that has been in the sector for a while, or those that attended the event, you heard several times about the expectation for our industry. There is a lot of hope, because hydrogen can be pretty much deployed in any sector of our economy to decarbonize. Stationary application, transport, the difficult transport modes were difficult in the sense of decarbonization. And this is also well reflected in the policy framework at European level. Only a few years ago, fuel cells and hydrogen were the technology for tomorrow, something for the labs, something in the future. Now it is clear from the legislation that this needs to happen now. We have seeing that there are plans to have 40 gigawatt of electrolyzer by 2030, that's tomorrow. If you're looking at the production of hydrogen, if you're looking at the end uses, we see that we have an increasingly tight regulation for the CO2 emissions in any of the transport modes, and that is favoring, it's really pushing ahead the solutions such as zero-emission vehicle solutions, including fuel cells and hydrogen. Now, we could say that the future looks bright, but I don't want to paint a too rosy picture. We all know that we also have a lot of difficulties that we are facing right now. This is clearly a bumpy road, but at the same time, the direction of travel is set. We can expect that the demand will be there. And this demand will need to be met. It will need to be met by us, by the industry. And there are quite a few challenges, and I would like to use one example that actually somebody here from the audience gave me some time ago. On the European streets, there are 6.5 million of trucks that are circulating. We did some time ago a study at the joint undertaking predicting that in one of our scenarios, by 2030, we could have 110,000 fuel cell trucks on our roads. A few things happened in the meanwhile, geopolitical things, complicated things, but let's still hold on that number. Now, that number of vehicles would imply that we need to produce millions of components of fuel cells, and we need to be able to ramp up fast, and we need to be able to do it with a quality that is expected by the OEM, which is what, one defective part per million. Now, if you look at it from the industry point of view, that's quite of a challenge, not only in terms of attracting the investment and having a secure environment for the investments. I will hear different opinions in the room about how safe it is to invest for ramp up, scaling up in manufacturing. But it's also a bit from the technical point of view. The technologies we are dealing with are delicate technologies. They're not, I would say, the easiest one to manufacture. They have a very little tolerance to imperfections. Anything that is not properly assembled, manufactured, will have an impact on the performance, on the lifetime, and eventually on the TCO. Furthermore, we could also claim that our industry doesn't have a tremendous experience with mass manufacturing. This is something quite new. Often we are to, let's say, borrow manufacturing technologies from other sectors. And in possibly too many processes, we are still relying on manual labor. There is too little automation that is leading to lower yields, increased cost, and problem with quality. And that's just to name some of the issues that we may be facing. Now, I'm not saying that none of that is out of reach. We can focus our efforts, and we can overcome all of these issues. But this is quite important that we do it, because if we don't, somebody else will do it. Somebody else outside Europe will take our role, will step in and start to produce our technologies faster and better than we can do it. Or there will be other zero-emission technologies that will take our share. So I think it is quite important that beside all the policy, all the projection, the demands, we also today reflect together on what we are able to deliver. And again, now I would like to reflect on these points with the panel, the distinguished panel that we have here. Each one will have their views and will add to this discussion. Now, if that's all right with you, I would like to start with you, Africa. Now, you, of course, are one of the companies working in with electrolyzers. And what role do you see? What are the bottlenecks? What are the challenges that you see looking ahead for you, for your company, in terms of meeting this increase in demand, this increase in volumes that you will need to deliver in the future?
Thank you, Pietro, for the question. One statement at the beginning. So this is future demand. The reality is market is not yet there. And that affects the way or in particular the role the electrolysis manufacturer or some electrolysis manufacturers. So it could be different positioning. Our colleague Nora will mention maybe. So different positioning depending on also on the track record that you can have or the size of the company you are in. Talking about role, I have to admit right now the role or the issue or the challenge is not the manufacturing. It is, so right now our role is more on engineering. Why? Because there is not one project same to the other one. There is not also the culture or have, so we have even to support the customers in order to set a tender, so to understand how technology can perform. So right now it's more on engineering, more on, so as electrolyzer manufacturer, we are more working on how to adapt or how to adequate to the customer needs, or even to understand which could be the customer needs and try to adequate to those. So even the customer has to work with you in order to get that. So within all the tender processes or negotiation process that we are in, the technical alignment takes months. So it's really a tough work, and that's what we have to do right now and the way we are doing. So right now the focus is more in engineering and less on manufacturing. Some other things, so that also affects also type of solutions that you, right now, in our case, we have to provide a very broad portfolio of options because from the scales are very diverse from one side for one customer to the other or even between geographies. So clearly what we are seeing is not anymore there's the interest what we can call the medium scale, so 10 to 100 kilowatts electrolyzers is not anymore the interest on there. Right now there is interest on the megawatt scale. Megawatt scale that's applicable for mobility, that's applicable also for geographies where they are still transitioning into understanding what this hydrogen economy could be. In this case, then, the way of doing things is more on in which side, so the design is more on containerized solutions and so on. Some other geographies, or if you're talking about industry, then the scale is different. So we are talking about 10, 20 megawatts, or even 100 megawatts. In this case, then the design or the way you engineer the solution is different. You forget a little bit on the container, you design more on an integrated, so you are also moving. So again, the role of this evolution as electrolyzer manufacturer, you have to evolve from doing as much as possible in factory to doing things that you have to will be done on site. So also this evolution is taking place. From one side is the market as is not so much ready. We see more on engineering, but doing on containerized or doing in factory, and less activity on site, make it simple to deploy. But in a, let's say, future, and let's see if it will be 2, 3, or 4 years, we see then more this evolution to more standardized projects where there will be more activity on site and so on. And if you allow me just a couple of more minutes, or should I move?
Absolutely. I mean, if it's still on point, otherwise I would like to briefly, let's move briefly to Christian,
Okay.
and then we can complete. We will have still the. Thank you.
Thank you. No, I was actually quite in agreement with Africa because I think the electrolyzer companies has been pivotal in this moment. We have been answering so many questions also under the engineering standpoint. I kind of not sharing the point that we are not ready for mass production. I don't see much in the technology standpoint the issue, because automotive industry in any case in Europe has been developed. On the clean tech we are pretty advanced. The problem I think that many companies have faced and the market in this moment is facing is that there are not so many reliable design of electrolyzers on the market, and so every time it is a continuous adaptation of the technologies. And this is one point. The second crucial point that we have to face, I think, it is the post-globalization era, because I don't think it is now a mystery anymore that we will have difficulties in trading goods more and more. We had already seen some slowing down of the supply chain all across the world, and it will be even worse. And so I think these are the two, besides of course the demand, which is not really encouraging for investment. So I think these are the two key points. We as the Nora, we have always been, as I was saying, in industrial manufacturing of electrolyzers. We have been strongly partnership with several big players, one of which is Nocera. It is well-known player, and with them we have been very, very lucky, I would say, because we could lever on the technology that we have developed in chloralkali for this market. So the design was a kind of ready since day one, and also our geographical position helped us, because we are here in Europe, we are in Asia, we are in the United States, so we can serve the market, let's say, very closely without having to switch, say, trade much, let's say, goods are around the globe. But yeah, I would say on technology, I'm pretty confident, let me put it this way. I feel that there is more, you know, we don't know what to build, let me say, at the moment. That would be my point.
Thank you very much, Christian. We will dig a bit deeper into that later on, but now I wanted to move to Richard. Now, Richard, you and AVL, you have quite a lot of experience when it comes in testing and optimizing hydrogen systems. So how do you see we will have increased volumes of production, but then how do you see also the whole part of the optimization, the testing, the quality control evolve? What role will a company like yours play? Where do you see the evolution going?
Okay, yeah, thank you, Pietro, for this question. So this perfectly will continue what Africa and Christian said about development and R&D. Yeah, as AVL, so we are basically involved in the early phase of the development, and also then in the instrumentation and test system for electrolyzers. Yeah? And we definitely see there an issue about testing and quality control, which already has been tackled or should be tackled in the development phase. And what we see is that usually all the electrolyzers are perfectly tested on stack level, but when this ideal world will be left from the lab and it comes to a system, or later in a final application somewhere in the field, we see there a lot of challenges, because usually the stacks and the systems, they are not tested in terms of how they react for grid fluctuations or temperature impacts on the cooling, or wiring the pressure control depending, or the back pressure depending on the application, if there is a buffer tank or if there is a hydrogen storage on the end. Yeah. And therefore AVL has developed a methodology, an approach, which is called systems engineering. So basically we have derived this from the conventional automotive business to fuel cell and electrolyzers, where we have developed tools and methodologies to basically emulate the environment of the final application, and use it like a digital twin, yeah. And basically this is requires robust simulation models to represent the reality already at the test rig, yeah. And therefore we have 3 pillars. So therefore you need a development team, and testing tools they have to be developed for hardware and software, and of course a methodology, yeah. Because on the end, what we see is depending on the final application for the electrolyzer. So if the ecosystem is different, finally, also the testing and the development has to be different for the electrolyzer, because if you want to have high reliability and long lifetimes, we have to face this already soon. Yeah? And therefore, it is very mandatory to have further R&D support, of course, for these topics. Yeah. So to identify the degradation and diagnostic and methodology tools before to detect them and before damage is taken on the electrolyzer. Yeah. And this thing has to be on a particular further importance and should be prioritized in my point of view.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much, Richard. Now we slightly change a little bit. The challenge is the same, but let's look at transport. Also in transport, we are projecting and hoping for quite an increase in the demand of fuel cells applications. So you will also have the challenge of scaling up, decreasing the cost, while at the same time it's key to maintain quality and the performance. And there could be a bit of a tension, let's say, between these two goals. So which type of innovation are you using in Symbio to keep this balance and meet the market demand?
Yeah, well, the best way not to trade off between the two is to accept that we need at the same time to bring the quality, the performance, and reduce the cost. The two biggest levers, of course, are the process technologies and the volume. Process technology at Symbio, we decided, let's say, among before the others, to invest in our first gigafactory, our first mass product plant. The plant is starting up right now in Lyon. With initial capacity of 16,000, with the aim to reach as quickly as possible 50,000. Until September last year, one system at Symbio was equal to about 30 operators, working on the system for about a week, just like an Hermes bag or high product. From this plant now, we are producing one every hour, so fully automatized. We decided to self-integrate in both the MEA, the membrane, and also the bipolar plate. We're doing that in JV with Schauperl in Alsace. So this is in progress. Of course, a lot remains to be done, but it's starting with SOP end of this year. The second is volumes. You probably have all read the DOE latest report on fuel cell, 60% cost reduction every time you tenfold the volumes. So this is what is at stake short term. We have decided to go to market on LCVs. We try to reach volumes before the Class A trucks or other applications will come to the market end of this decade. So technology volumes, that's the two levers we are playing short term.
Okay, well, that sounds like a great solution, actually. Thank you very much. Now, Africa, I wanted to go a little bit back where I stopped you earlier. Like you were starting to mention the fact that right now the market is not quite there. It's more a future, it's a potential. So how do you deal with that, with these fluctuations in the market? Maybe that's what you wanted to comment earlier on.
Yes, in fact, and in fact I have to I'm not sure that they have been a right message that I have provided before. Okay. So when I'm saying that right now is less on manufacturing, more engineering, I'm not talking about not delivering products. We are, but right now is more, so the focus is on engineering because it's ad hoc solutions, one case by the other. So it's not, hopefully there will be the time for standardizing. So we're saying this is the short catalog and manufacturing serial production. That's the objective. But for that, it's not yet the time. Or what we're seeing is, and in fact, and one positive message, we have overcapacity of electrolyzer manufacturing right now in Europe. We have. It's a pity because those factories are empty, so are not having that activity. And that's making the electrolyzer sector suffer, because those are expenses that you have to take on your own. So in our case, and that's the end is again on this, in which way you evolve with the current situation. So in this case, being an SME, you have to, guys, take general expenses to minimize that and to keep as low as possible. And then when talking about manufacturing, and I think I understand it's clear for everyone, but there is different the manufacturing capability that you have to have for building a stacks that for building the balance of plant. Stacks is capital intensive, so you need to have certainty of the market to really add that. If not, you will have an empty factory. And from the balance of plant, clearly, it could be easily being adapted. And in this direction, the way we are also evolving is, at the end, you can become more flexible. And it's regarding flexibility. Right now, you have to be flexible because the market is, as Christian was saying, what have I to manufacture? Who knows? So it will be a different pace today and tomorrow. So as this standardization has not yet reached, then you have to be flexible. And flexible in this case is understanding there is more engineering, that being able to have a very nice operations for your manufacturing processes is being just more, guys, right now we have to focus maybe on testing because we have several units, or not. We have to do more commissioning, so to be able to adapt to that.
Perfect, thank you very much. Christian, do you want to comment on this one as well?
Yeah, actually, I didn't want to say that there is no manufacturing to do, but I was sharing the point that we have to educate as well also the market here. So most of the time the conversation are also around on how they should approach certain problems that maybe have been faced already in other sectors. We call it versatility instead of flexibility in our factories. And just to give you a number, in Europe we have 2.5 gigawatt of capacity. We are not, of course, saturating all with water electrolysis, even if we have more than 50% of that for the current projects. But we had to, let's say, design our lines to be flexible and versatile, to accept also other products. And it is the only way in this kind of market scenario in which you can have a sustainability of your investment. So we keep looking at the market every second day, revising our investment plan, more or less in parallel. And we are striving, let's say, every day to find a good balance between sustainability of our investment and the market perspective and the market trajectory, let me say.
Perfect, thank you. Richard, I just wanted to pick up on something that you were mentioning earlier. You mentioned about R&D, the need of keep on investing, sustaining the R&D in manufacturing, and because at the joint undertaking we had actually quite a big wave of projects in the past that were looking at the evolution of manufacturing technique. Should this be back on the menu, like in a very aggressive way?
Yeah. So basically we have now 3 years in front of us. And manufacturing is definitely one of the elements which the clean hydrogen undertaking is supporting. Yeah? Definitely there are many important things basically to how to improve the manufacturing process of electrolyzers and fuel cells, and this is what we are also facing at AVL. So basically we are working together with our customers for design to cost and design to manufacture issues for their products. Yeah? So this is what we haven't done before for fuel cells and electrolyzers. So basically we have big knowledge in the automotive industry, but now is the time where we see the demand from the market for these tools, like I said, design to cost and design to manufacture, and which is also new is the sustainability and circularity. Yeah? So this is also new. We have done this for all the conventional automotive technologies and for batteries, and now we are doing this very intensively for fuel cells and electrolyzers for different type of technologies. Yeah. And we had several projects in the past, basically dealing with manufacturing issues, funded by the joint undertaking. I do remember 2019, basically we had this project called SOSLEM, where we got the Innovation Award. It was 2019, and we are developed a novel diagnosis tool to speed up and ramp up the manufacturing for high temperature fuel cells. Yeah. And we had another project, it was called Low Cost IC, basically, where we have analyzed the composition of an interconnect and further in terms of cost and complexity, and further then also optimized in terms of manufacturing. Yeah. And there are a lot of other topics which will and have to be addressed in future course, I'm pretty sure. And I'm really looking forward to it. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Richard. Philippe, I have one question that actually I would like to address a bit to all of you. Now, congratulations for your investments. You're really taking mass and automation heads-on as a solution for the challenges. But when you're looking at the European manufacturing base, how do you feel? Are you scared about the competitiveness of the European manufacturer when you're looking at the global scales? Do you think that we are lagging behind? Are we losing ground? Are we remaining competitive? What would be on your wish list in terms of what the joint undertaking can do, what you would expect from the European policymaker that would make it even easier for you, or safer, less risky, to invest even bigger?
Lots of things. So first, when we see Europe today, we think Europe has an advantage today on this technology. You see Symbio, you see what is done at Cellcentric, at Ivia, you see on the tanks, Forvia, Plasticomium, you see on the OEMs, you see Stellantis, you see Renault, you see BMW, Daimler, Volvo, and so on. So nowhere in the world today, in any continent, you have this ecosystem as ready, as mature as the European one. Now, what should be done to take this advantage, knowing that, of course, others are catching up, in particular Chinese. We see Chinese working heavily on this technology with a lot of incentives, with go-to-market 28, 30. So that means we have 5 years ahead of us before the big crews arrive. So we think during those 5 years, two things can be done to help incentivize this technology, which again is complementary to the battery for some use case application. Number one, AFIR, very good directive. Now it needs to be implemented, and not only for heavy-duty trucks, but also for other applications like LCVs. Number two, in the coming discussion on CO2 regulations, we think there should be discussed a mechanism of extra credits for technologies bringing solutions, zero-emission solution, to vehicles that have more than 400 kilometers of autonomy, which a large part of the market is asking to help kickstart the volumes and go the experience curves I was explaining earlier.
Perfect, thank you very much, Philippe. I would like to invite also the others, as these are rather generic questions, like what is your wish list?
Okay, something, and in fact it has been mentioned in some part way before. So when talking about hydrogen cost, we have to reduce costs, okay? CapEx is one aspect, but it's not the only aspect. And in order to reduce CapEx, the main driver will be scale. It will be this mass manufacturing. But within the cost for hydrogen, OPEX has more to do. So, and it has been one of the big highlights that we have been taken from yesterday's Electrolysis Summit. So OPEX is something to have to work on. And on that, Europe has, I think, more words to say that, as you have mentioned, or it has been mentioned, the Chinese competitions, for instance. So yes, for OPEX, for minimizing OPEX, for working on that, you have to request the suppliers, and in this particular case, electrolyzers, for performance. And in order also to ask for that, also this learning process is ongoing. So understanding what should be requested, what is the parameter you have to look for. So all this. And of course, in order to have a FID, you have to get values that are guaranteed. Okay, let's work on that. And at the end is thinking not only on a CapEx or investment, but considering that you have an asset that you will have to be running for the lifetime of that. So in which way you will be able to have operational that facility. That's the kind of support that in particular European are really good at, and that maybe some other competitors are not so keen on sounding smart on. And because in this case, it's not only the product itself, it's the servicing that you're providing. So servicing in this OPEX minimization is key. So in which way you can provide support. And it's not only that you have manpower available for doing that when it's needed, but you take that into consideration from the design point of view, from day zero. You already have that because you have to design all your solution for being able to have a production guarantee, a long-term service agreement, whatever is needed, or whatever the customer is looking for.
Perfect, thank you. That's quite clear wish list. Christian.
It seems that we all say we align our answers, but honestly, I think we are all sharing the same thought here. I think, as my colleagues already said, that Europe has a very big advantage, and it is a competitive advantage. I can speak about electrolyzer. We are excellent in efficiency. We are excellent in performances, safety, quality standards. We have no. I don't think at the moment we have any country competing with us. Of course, non-European electrolyzer manufacturer, for instance, could take advantage of other, say, subsidies that we don't even know. And so I think, for instance, as a clean hydrogen partnership, we should push, for instance, on the carbon footprint that this solution brings, because the battle is not on cheap capex, it is really on the opex, at least for the hydrogen generation. I think we should look to keep the advantage that we have today. So again, performance is efficiency. I would really hope to see that as a European community, we sustain, we reinforce our supply chain, which is, I think, one of the critical aspects for the competition, that we still endorse fair competition. I mean, I think competition, it is a need. I mean, we should not, let's say, we should not be against the competitors. We should just make sure that we have fair competition in this direction. And so no blocks on the trades, but really, something that help us. And if I have to say, as a European manufacturer, I mean, energy prices is really killing us. So yeah, energy should become a priority for the manufacturing in Europe. The rest, I would say, it will come.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much, Christian. A bit of photovoltaic industry echoes here. Let's hope that doesn't end up the same way. Richard, I don't know if you wanted to complement.
Yeah, I just want to continue what Christian just said. Is I'm also really convinced that the European electrolyzer manufacturers are well positioned in terms of technology, but still there are some issues we have to tackle. Yeah? And one is, of course, regulatory hurdles. So it's still very complex, and it needs still too much time. The regulatory environment which slow down the projects. Of course, the production capacity will be upscaled when the demand is there. Of course, so this will come by itself. And for me, or for me personally, from my point of view, the most critical thing for an electrolyzer manufacturer is the critical raw materials and the dependency of the supply chain. Yeah? For example, we have to create supply chains where we can get these materials from non-banned countries first, so we have to make good friendship with these countries, let's say. And most important, of course, is also regulations, and the most important regulation is the possibly ban of the PFAS. Yeah. So because when this comes, so this will change everything, because then all the electrolyzers, PEM related, they can stop immediately working. Yeah, and this is very, very critical. Yeah, when we talk about investment and scaling up, of course. Yeah, so this is a game changer.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. Sorry, I don't want to dig too deep into this, but you mentioned the critical raw materials. Recycling, are we paying enough attention to that? Because also at the joint undertaking we had a few projects there that could become a little bit more relevant when the volumes will increase. Our dependence will shift from certain types of resources to others, from, again, things we do not find in Europe. So probably, I guess, also recycling is something we should keep on funding. Now, I hope you were able to follow us. I'm following 2 events at the same time. It's becoming very knowledgeable here. But I wanted to open a little bit the floor also to questions from the audience. Don't be shy. If anything, it's about energy, transport, manufacturing, quality control. If there is something you wanted to ask, check with our speakers. No? Okay, I will give you some time to think about it. And in the meanwhile, I wanted to ask also, is the issue of skilled workforce a problem, or is this something that doesn't really, you see in the future as something that will become a bottleneck?
I don't think it's a problem per se. It's something that needs to be managed, let's say. On hydrogen, we have the luck to be very attractive for engineers. You know, it's an area where both from chemical engineering or automotive, there are a lot of asking. At Symbio, we went from 100 employees 4 years ago to 700 today, and we had thousands of applications. What we did, however, is we created a hydrogen academy, Symbio Academy, to train those engineers to hydrogen activities from operations, you know, operators type level, up to master level. This year it's the fourth years for hydrogen masters. We open that to suppliers and customers, because it's not only our needs, but also the one from our suppliers. But again, couldn't say it's an issue at this stage.
Okay, perfect. Sounds good. All right. So, unless any of you has some final thought that would like to share with the audience, I would like to thank you again for your interventions. I think that we have a lot of important messages here that we heard. More need for standardization, less for ad hoc types of projects. That this is definitely driving up the cost, this type of fragmentation. We need a level playing field. Trade is going to be very important also to, let's say, protect the European manufacturing base. The EU has still an advantage that needs to defend, so that's also good to hear. And definitely R&D still has to play a big role in improving the manufacturing techniques. So I would like to ask you all to give a last round of applause for our speakers. And I hope that this was an interesting session for all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.